Hi there, my name's Chris, this is my corner, and today is part 2 of Rebuilding the Temple. And I'd like to discuss the topic of fear. Not only how it affects us internally, but how it can affect our relationship with God and our future. Now, today I'll be using the New Living Translation for the verses that I bring up. The first one that I'd like to bring up is in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, which reads, "For God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and self-control." Now, I underlined self-control here, and that can extend to a lot of different realms in our day-to-day life. Obviously, we have the self-control of how we speak to one another, how we react to catastrophe, let's say, or maybe even the smallest things of what to eat. But the other aspect of that is fear. Because fear, although it can be sometimes subconscious or not really able to be controlled all the way, it can be controlled. It can be minimized. And one of the best ways to do that is through consistent prayer. Because when we continue to access God in that way, when we continue to bear our weaknesses and our potential misunderstandings of what's going on, that allows us to shift the burden from our shoulders to His. And by doing so, we free up a lot of space, not only to breathe, but also mental space. It allows us to show God that we are willing to breathe and be still as He commands us. Thing is, though, fear is in and of itself a form of control. And what I mean by that is, if we were raised up to be fearful, let's say you had not the best household, or maybe you were bullied as a child, that fear can be a default of, I do not know what's happening, I don't know where it's going to go, so this is where I'm going to stay. Because many times, it's happened in my life, where once you begin to hope that the fear is going to go away, well, kind of gets scary on its own. Because then what if stuff starts to happen the right way? What if I actually do start to succeed? Then comes another layer of fear, which is, now what if it all falls apart? And we can't stay stuck there. Because when we do, we shut ourselves out, not only from the presence of God, but from life. If you're too afraid to take the next step of whatever you're doing, you will stay exactly where you are. If you're afraid to ask for the promotion, you're going to keep getting paid the same. If you're afraid to get out of the job, you will be in the rut that you fear every morning. And of course, it's easier said than done. That's the point. The point is who we say it to. If we come to God and say, Lord, I am afraid, but I believe there is something greater for me. A lot of the times, if you are following Him, He will agree. He wants you to have the best possible life. And sometimes, yes, you do need to stay where you are. No doubt about that. But often, we don't trust God enough to push us in that direction. Now, I'd like to go to the second point here, which is the second verse. It's going to be Psalms 56, 3 through 4. Now, Psalms 56, 3 should be on our hearts daily, just so that whenever it comes up, whenever we start to get anxious, we can have this to fall back on. But I will also address verse 4, which I think is almost equally important. So, Psalms 56:3. When I am afraid, I trust in you. In God, I boast in his promise. In God I trust, I am not afraid. What can mere men do to me? Now, the reason why I also included verse 4 is because what people think of us can destroy us. That has been the problem for most of my life. What do people think of me? What if I say what I have on my mind? Will I be ostracized? Will I no longer be able to speak with anyone? Will I look like a fool? And when fear begins to silence you, especially if you're speaking truth, that is when it gets dangerous. Because if you aren't courageous enough to speak that truth when it matters, you might find yourself in a very dark place. I did. There were so many times in my life, whether it was relationships or colleagues at work, where because I did not say what was on my mind and I knew to be true, things fell apart. Many a relationship in my life, both friend and partner, have fallen apart simply because I was afraid to speak. And we have to ask ourselves why. Well, a lot of the times, speaking for me, but a lot of the times it's because of what happened when we spoke up beforehand. Again, it goes a lot back to childhood. If when you were growing up, let's say you had siblings or maybe a parent who didn't give you the time of day, it's very easy. Very easy to say it's not worth speaking up. And it's tricky to get out of that mindset, because what we first have to understand is that, A, we are very valuable to God. And by being valuable to God, we must value his word as well. What I mean by that is he wants to use each and every one of us. And what that means is our voices. Maybe you write, maybe you sing, maybe you have a social media. But our voices are important. And so the enemy will use the fear of speaking up to silence you. Again, it happens to me all the time. It used to. But now, when you find the freedom, when you find the capability to say, you know what? I think I'm going to trust God because he's made a promise to take care of you. And he does not break his promises. And I just want to reiterate the last section of verse 4. What can mere men do to me? What can they do? Most people aren't psychopaths. So, at worst, you'll get yelled at. Maybe a heated disagreement, and that's where it's going to stop. But besides that, you're probably not going to get hit. And if you do, guess what? You're speaking the truth. And it says in the Bible, sometimes you will be, let me say it like this. You will be persecuted in my name, and those that are persecuted will find favor. It's not the exact quote, sorry, just paraphrasing. But that's what we have to understand, is people who are not in alignment with God will flinch at the truth. And that can be us too. Even when we are in our walk, maybe you have felt this, I know I have. When you hear a sermon, or when a friend who is in the church says something that hurts you, but not because of their intention, not because of their tone, but because of the bulk of their words. You know, the stuff that really drives into your heart. Oh, maybe I'm messing up. You know, maybe this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And the flesh reaction to that is anger, frustration. Who do you think you are? Well, you're probably going to get that. And again, that's okay, because the answer to that is I'm a follower of Christ. And wherever that leads is up to the person, of course. But the main thing is we cannot be afraid to say something. Not, don't expect to be welcomed with open arms if you go into a territory that you know for a fact is anti-Christian. Pretty simple stuff there. But my main point is, whether it's an office space, a friendship group, family, we cannot be afraid to say what's right, because that's what leads to further decline of society. Too long, we have let the wrong be present. And it's up to us. It's up to the people alive right now who are willing to step out and say, God, this might be dangerous, but it's possible. And He will take care of you. And that's what I'm learning more and more every day. I want to be frustrated with daily life. I do. Every time something starts to go wrong, or I'm thinking too far ahead, let's say. I'm saying, oh man, this isn't exactly happening the way I want it to. Now I'm concerned. Now I have no idea what the outcome will be. And that is the perfect time to talk to Him. You say, God, I don't know. I'm frustrated. Be honest with Him, because that's what He wants. He knows. He already knows your thoughts. But to humbly come before Him and say, God, I am afraid, but I want to speak on your behalf. I am angry, let's say, that this person said this, or this activity didn't work out. He wants to hear it, because that means you are trusting Him enough to talk to Him about it. And that is, again, something I'm learning more and more every day. So, for the end of this, I just want to ask, if you have anything on your heart, even if you just need to see it, comment below. Maybe, I'm not knowledgeable on everything, but I sure can do research. So if you have any questions for me, I'd love to answer them. If you have any prayer requests, love to do that too. But for now, appreciate you coming along, and I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day.